Hello there, very good evening and welcome to your Primetime News Bulletin. I'm Shayan Silva.
I'm Stephanie Lazarus. Before we head into your news in detail, here's a look at the headlines for tonight.
39 new secretaries appointed to Cabinet and State Ministries. JVP files petition with Court of Appeals seeking the arrest of KP. An opportunity to question heads of institutions under the Aviation Ministry at a public court. A statement from Minister Faiza Mustafa. Minister Rosie Senanayake promises a 24-hour hotline dedicated for children. Over 70,000 wall clocks meant to be distributed during election campaigning seized by the authorities. Former Deputy Minister Dulip Wijesekara and Patriotic National Movement's Wasantha Bandara produced in court.
Onto your stories in detail now. President Maithripala Sirisena handed over letters of appointment to 39 ministerial secretaries today. The letters were handed over at an event held at the Presidential Secretariat.
EMSPA Kanayaka was appointed as a secretary to the Prime Minister. Sumit Abesinghe was appointed as a secretary to the Cabinet. A letter of appointment was also handed over to BM UD Basnayaka as a secretary to the Ministry of Defence. Professor K. Lianage has been appointed as a secretary to the Ministry of Policy Development and Economic Affairs and as a secretary to the Ministry of Culture and Arts. TMKB Thennakon has been appointed as a secretary to the Ministry of Public Security, Christian Religious Affairs and Disaster Management. PHJB Sugadadasa received his letter of appointment as a secretary to the Ministry of Food Security. C. Vagishwara, who was appointed as the Secretary of the Ministry of External Affairs, was among the 39 appointments made today. President Maithripala Sirisena then addressed the newly appointed secretaries.
We are clearly aware of how ministerial secretaries have been used for a candidate's purpose of campaigning with prior instructions, sometimes without a prior instruction, sometimes through duress. We know how low the public service fell and that these incidents contributed to it. When people used to go to public institutions to obtain some service, they would have to make the trip 10 to 15 or even 100 times. A primary responsibility of ministry secretaries is to ensure that the administration and the management of the institution under them is able to have relations with the public in such a way that allegations cannot be levelled against them.
Meanwhile, several new ministers assumed duties today.
The Minister of State for Aviation, Faiza Mustafa, assumed duties today at the ministry premises in the Setsiripai Administrative Complex in Patharmulla. A product of Royal College, Colombo, Faiza Mustafa is the President's Counsel. He entered politics in 2004 and was elected to Parliament the same year from the Kandy district. He has held various ministerial and deputy ministerial portfolios prior to his present appointment.
On Monday, I will call all the heads of divisions at the ministry to a public court, and you can ask any questions regarding the institutions under this ministry that may have arisen in the past 8.5 years. I will work with complete transparency. I call on all executives at these institutions to immediately inform me of any corruption or wastage that they are aware of. If you do so immediately, then I will be satisfied that you have fulfilled your responsibility. Any employee at the institution can write to me personally and inform me of any fraud or corruption. I hope to appoint a separate committee under the ministry to conduct inquiries.
Meanwhile, Minister of State for Children's Affairs, Rosie Senanayake, assumed duties today as well. Senanayake was elected to the Western Provincial Council on the UMP ticket from the Colombo district in 2009 and in 2010 she was elected to Parliament.
There is an animal called the chameleon which changes color. It could be red in the morning, green in the afternoon and blue at night. You must be careful with the chameleon. No matter which party it is, keep the suitable person and remove the unsuitable one. We can rebuild this country and direct it onto a new path only if we do not leave room for corruption and bribery.
දූෂණයට අල්ලසට ඉඩක් නොතබන්නට.
Today, we can see that children's welfare was affected by the drug culture. My ministry will work to root out the drug culture from this country, direct children who have become addicts to rehabilitation centres, address the shortcomings at rehabilitation centres, and direct the children onto the correct path. My ministry will intervene directly in the cases of children who have undergone trauma due to some mental abuse. Children are facing other problems and children who are unable to get an education and are suffering from poverty. We will establish a separate bureau and a 24-hour hotline in the near future.
Minister of Public Administration, Democratic Rule and Buddha Sasana Karu Jayasuriya assumed duties at the auspicious time this morning. We came before the people to establish good governance and democracy in the country. We came forward to form a just and fair government and to create a society where qualified persons receive their due place. To create a society where one can act with honesty, devoid of political loyalties. We are committed to this in the future as well.
General Secretary of the National Patriotic Movement, Dr. Wasantha Bandara, was arrested by the Criminal Investigations Department today. Police media spokesperson SSP Ajit Rohana said that Dr. Bandara was arrested on charges of organising a protest opposite the UNP headquarters Sirikota and for being a member of an unlawful gathering. Meanwhile, a number of individuals, including politicians who were believed to be involved in several incidents reported during the recently concluded poll, were produced before court today.
Former Deputy Minister Dulip Wijesekara and Chairman of the Biyagama Pradesha Sabha Anand Ganepola were arrested and produced before court on charges of attacking an individual during polling for presidential elections. Kadata Chief Magistrate Mahinda Prabhat Ranasinghe ordered that the suspects be released on sureties of 100,000 rupees each. The next hearing is scheduled to convene on the 25th of March this year.
JVP Propaganda Secretary MP Vijitha Herath filed a petition with the Court of Appeal today seeking the arrest of Shanmugan Kumaran Dharmalingam alias Kumaran Padmanathan, who succeeded Velipillai Prabhakaran as leader of the LTTE and sought that legal action be initiated against him.
The Inspector General of Police, Secretary of Defence, Controller General of Immigration and Immigration, Army Commander, Security Forces, Commander in Kilinochchi, Director of the Terrorism Investigation Division, Attorney General and Kumaran Padmanathan have been cited as respondents in this petition. The petition also states that Kumaran Padmanathan was involved in the murder of former Prime Minister of India Rajiv Gandhi and was instrumental in the supply of weapons from foreign nations for the LTTE. Furthermore, the petition reiterates that a large number of soldiers, police officers and civilians were killed during the war waged by the LTTE that was aided by the supply of weapons by Padmanathan. It also states that after his arrest in Thailand on the 5th of August 2009, following information received by the State Intelligence Service of Sri Lanka, no action was taken against him by the former government. Additionally, the petition also mentions the fact that he was entrusted a non-government organization and that he was treated as a person who had not committed any crime. Furthermore, the petitioner requests that Kumaran Padmanathan not be allowed to leave the country, adding that if he is allowed to do so, the petition would not bring forth any result.
KP or Kumaran Padmanathan is the last existing leader of the LTTE. Though he was arrested previously by the Rajapaksa government, there was no legal action taken against him. They said that he owned several fleets internationally, gold, international bank accounts and a large stock of cash. But none of this have been brought to light. We have named 8 respondents in our petition. Immediately arrest Kumaran Padmanathan and initiate legal action against him lawfully. That is what we expect through this petition.
උසාවි ක්‍රියාමාර්ගයක් ගන්න නීත්‍ය අනුකූලව ඒ කටයුතු සිදු කරන්න කියන එක තමයි අපි මේ පෙත්සමෙන් බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ.
Minister of Finance Ravi Karunanayake says information is continuing to be uncovered on large-scale corruption transactions which have heaped pressure on the public. The minister made the statement in an exclusive interview with Newsfirst Roshan Watawala.
Minister, following the revelation of large-scale fraud and corruption, what are the other latest discoveries?
Sri Lankan Airlines said they are bringing down 18 aircraft. We asked them not to do it, not to bring down the aircraft at unaffordable prices and cause problems for public taxes. Now, after this change, usually when you are in the opposition, everyone is at your neck. When you are in the government, everyone is at your feet. Now these files that they said never existed when we asked for it are being brought to us, the files of Sri Lankan Airlines. Now this is a file belonging to Sri Lankan Airlines.
Sri Lankan Ayatana certification of plan for CASL VSCTC aircraft.
We were surprised. According to this file, according to what I have understood, our then president had tried to acquire a fleet of aircraft far exceeding that owned by the US President Barack Obama. Now, according to this, Sri Lankan Airlines has paid 25% more in addition to the cost when purchasing this aircraft. Now, this is the issue. If we put an end to this, does it mean that we have brought development to a standstill? Meaning that through paying off the 25% extra from the taxpayers' money, we can purchase not 18 aircraft but 25. Now, is this bringing development to a standstill? Look, page 32 of 39. There are 39 pages in all. In this aircraft, normally when you are aboard the aircraft, it has 250 or 232 seats. Now, what you see here is an aircraft with 2 beds and a toilet. 2 aircraft used for luxurious air travel. In a third world developing country like ours, where 75% of the population are struggling to earn $2 a day, is this what they mean by a country of wonder? Now, this is not something that was drafted by us. This has all been authored by their government. Does that mean we are seeking revenge when we reveal this? Even they can see it, that through all this money, the tax imposed on the public could be reduced.
Chief Executive Officer of Sri Lankan Airlines Kapila Chandrasena says that an additional cost of 10% was incurred when operating flights from Mattala. Chandrasena noted that thereby Sri Lankan Airlines has now cancelled flights to Mattala.
Minister of State for Aviation Faiza Mustafa, who assumed official duties today, convened a press conference along with several heads serving at the ministry. Journalists raised questions on the discontinuation of flights from the Mattala airport.
The minister met with us and told us to work towards carrying out activities commercially, and if there is a potential loss in operating to a particular destination, take the necessary decisions accordingly. So accordingly, we have stopped operating losses. The expenditure on flights operating from and via Mattala was slightly higher because it costs 10% more to land the plane there and then take off. I didn't order the cancellation of flights to Mattala. I instructed the discontinuation of all unproductive routes. Thereby the CEO has arrived at this decision on commercial grounds. An unfortunate situation arose in the country as a result of decisions based on several motives instead of a commercially based one. Now, could the CEO have discontinued the route operating through and from Mattala during the previous regime? He would have lost his job tomorrow. But we have now ended that era. I don't blame anyone. We need to focus on the reality. This is public money. This is not mine. We cannot play around with the public's money.
Journalists also raised questions about the future of Mihin Lanka.
It is not practical for an airline operator to carry out activities with just 3 aircraft. I have just taken my seat. Decisions as to whether I will be closing it down or not will be made following discussions with the President and the Prime Minister. But I will conduct an evaluation of this institution.
In the meantime, speaking in Kandy today, Minister of Power and Energy Partali Champika Ranawaka noted that fuel prices would be reduced by next month as promised.
After paying homage at the sacred temple of the Tooth Relic today, Minister Partali Champika Ranawaka visited the chief prelate of the Asgiri chapter of the Siam sect, the Most Venerable Udugama Sri Buddha Rakkhitha Thero. The minister also visited the chief prelate of the Malvathu chapter of the Siam sect, the Most Venerable Tibbatwave Sri Sumangala Thero.
Our first aim is to remove the taxes and introduce a price formula for diesel, petrol and kerosene. A draft has been prepared for the constitutional amendment. This deals with the presidency, the independent commissions and the electoral system. During the election, state power was misused severely and there was a lot of intimidation. We hope to empower the Elections Commission to ensure that this does not happen in the future. Yes, the general election will be held. The program to empower the Elections Commissioner will be implemented prior to that. Accusations have been made against certain businessmen, certain officials and politicians. The accusations against them will not be lifted just because they support the current government. Whether they support the government or not, justice must be served with regard to the accusations against them. Justice must be definitely served against Kumaran Padunathan, who was Gotabe's pet in the Rajapaksa government and who in 1995 brought 36 tons of explosives and set them off at the Temple of the Tooth and various other locations. We can see shortcomings in the current legal provisions. We will address them and act against them in a special court.
මේ ඇයට විශේෂ අධිකරණයක් යටතේ අපි අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම ක්‍රියා කරනවා. ඉන්ධන මිල අඩුවීමක් ඉදිරි සතිය තුලද සිදු වෙයිද කියලා ලබන මාසයේ
We hope to implement it next month. World oil prices have fallen to an extremely low level today, but the agreements that have been signed are very high prices. And nevertheless, as we promised, the people, our government, led by His Excellency the President and the Honourable Prime Minister, will implement this.
කටයුත්ත කරනවා.
Investigations pertaining to the floating armory discovered on a ship docked at the Galle harbour have been handed over to the Criminal Investigations Department. Police media spokesperson SSP Ajit Rohana noted that questions have arisen with regard to the warehouse permit and added that special attention will be paid to this in future investigations.
The floating armory was discovered last evening based on a tip-off. Police said that around 3,154 automatic and semi-automatic weapons were discovered in the armory. It was suspected that the warehouse belonged to a private security firm. Police also discovered 747,859 rounds of ammunition.
We are hoping to investigate as to how this private organization received permission to stock such a large quantity of weapons. We will look into the legitimacy of maintaining this armory and how many firearms the Ministry of Defence had allowed them to store. We are investigating whether the firearms were licensed and whether anything was done in violation of the approval granted by the Ministry of Defence.
Meanwhile, the police noted that the license plate on the vehicle discovered in Piliyandala the day before yesterday was fake. Police stated that they have received information related to an individual who produced cars with auto parts imported from abroad. Police media spokesperson SSP Ajit Rohana noted that an investigation team is currently trying to ascertain as to who brought the car to the house where it was discovered. Meanwhile, police carried out investigations on 2 containers which were discovered in the Paliogode area.
When we investigated the 2 containers, we found wooden furniture as well as souvenirs from abroad. Upon further inquiry, we found that this was furniture that was once in temple trees and was the private property of the former president. The judiciary has issued orders to carry out further investigations to find out if there are any items which belong to temple trees.
Meanwhile, police media spokesperson SSP Ajit Rohana stated that investigations have commenced into the 68,000 clocks which were discovered in Sapugaskanda yesterday. Police state that the clocks have been stocked in a private warehouse and a monthly rental of 1.5 million rupees was paid by Sri Lanka Ports Authority. Meanwhile, 2,500 wall clocks with the image of 2 politicians have been found in Ingurumulana, Veerakatiya. SSP Rohana said that investigations have revealed that the clocks have been brought by a private Chinese firm and have a collective value of $199,000.
Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe has extended his gratitude to the Sri Lankan Bar for standing firm in the face of many challenges. He made this statement at the Conference of Attorneys General of South, Southeast, East and West Asia that was held at the BMICH in Colombo today under the auspices of President Maithripala Sirisena.
The Conference of Attorneys General was organised in line with the 130th anniversary of the establishment of the Office of the Attorney General of Sri Lanka. A distinguished gathering including President Maithripala Sirisena, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, ministers, MPs and attorneys and prosecutors general from countries in the region participated at this conference organised by the Attorney General's Department. In his address to the gathering, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe expressed his gratitude to Sri Lanka's legal community.
This system of which we are proud, but unfortunately a system in which the foundations were challenged and the structure was damaged in the last 5 years. The basic concept of the rule of law was challenged. But I must say it is to the credit of the Sri Lanka Bar that they stood firm And here I must pay my compliments to the Sri Lanka Bar Association and also to the Attorney General's Department and its members. I know the pressures they went into, what they had to do, but nevertheless, they somehow stood their ground. So thanks to the lawyers, he certainly played a role in ensuring that to some extent the rule of law was upheld and not trampled completely.
The Prime Minister also spoke on the importance of inculcating a rule of law mindset.
But we must also remember it's not merely the laws, it's a mindset. And we had a mindset of leading people who are willing to ignore the fact that the rule of law had been trampled upon and that rule of law was in danger of disappearing. So then how is it that we inculcate these values back against the system? Finally, it's the social, the political leaders, the elite of the country that has to defend it. But in our case, it was the people that finally came forward.
The idea of this meeting here in Colombo is not to formally learn in the way that is done in conventional conferences. It is rather to provide a space for networking and sharing our ideas and experiences as leaders of the legal communities of our countries.
Our attempts to contact the Attorney General to inquire into whether Deputy Minister of Justice Sujiva Senasinghe had been invited for the conference were not successful. Newsfirst contacted the Deputy Minister in this regard.
Several people asked me if I was present there, and I said that I was not aware of it. I spoke to the Secretary of the Ministry of Justice, and he too said that it was a problem and that he would make inquiries and that it was organized by the Attorney General's Department. I believe he made inquiries from the Attorney General's Department. A Solicitor General from the department contacted me and asked me if I had received an invitation. I said no, I did not receive an invitation. He said he would look into it and get back to me. But they have not gotten back to me as yet.
Deputy Minister of Policy Development and Economic Affairs Dr. Harsha De Silva says that attention has been drawn towards commencing several German investment projects, including automobile manufacturing in Sri Lanka. He made this statement following a meeting in Colombo today.
A meeting between the German ambassador to Sri Lanka, Dr. Jürgen Mohard, and Deputy Minister Dr. Harsha De Silva was held at the Prime Minister's office in Colombo today.
The world's second largest car manufacturer, Volkswagen, came to Sri Lanka to invest here, and because of weaknesses in the process, they turned back. We will recommence talks with them immediately. In truth, if we are able to convince such a reputed company to commence their manufacturing operations in Sri Lanka, it will generate a massive number of jobs. We are looking forward to bringing that sustainable development and industrialization to Sri Lanka. We hope to commence discussions with the Volkswagen company through the finance and investment ministries in the coming days.
That we could work together now with the Sri Lankan government to even improve the situation, and I promised that I will do my utmost to invite all the potential investors back I have met during the last 2 years who came here, had expressed their interest, but for many reasons could not really implement their plans they originally had in mind when it comes to partnering up with Sri Lanka.
Former Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa has dismissed as baseless allegations that he maintained an account with the Bank of Ceylon with funds of 8 billion rupees. Issuing a statement, the former Defence Secretary says that the claim is grossly misleading and has been made purely with the ulterior motive of discrediting his character and reputation. Gotabaya Rajapaksa says that to his knowledge there exists an operational account with the Bank of Ceylon Taprobane branch, the funds of which are dedicated to financing the construction of the proposed army headquarters building at Palawatta. Furthermore, Gotabaya Rajapaksa writes that the account was opened with the approval of the Cabinet of Ministers and the funds deposited in the said account were proceeds from the sale of the land at Golface, Colombo, on which the army headquarters were situated. He notes that the account is operated by the Chief Accountant and other authorized officials of the Ministry of Defence under the overall supervision of the Secretary of Defence. Gotabaya Rajapaksa says that the account was opened in 2011 with about 20 billion rupees being the proceeds from the sale of land at Golface. He notes that the balance in the said account on the last day of his holding office was certainly more than 8 billion rupees, adding that these figures can be verified with the Treasury. Furthermore, he notes that since he has ceased to be the Secretary to the Ministry of Defence, his successor becomes the automatic custodian of the account, adding that all facts he has presented in this statement can be verified by the current Defence Secretary.
Former Minister Mahinda Samarasinghe lodged a complaint against UNP parliamentarian Palitha Tevara Peruma at the police headquarters today. The complaint cited several incidents which occurred in the Agalavati electorate over the past few days. Palitha Tevara Peruma has rejected the accusations levelled at him.
At a media briefing convened at the SLFP headquarters today, former Minister Mahinda Samarasinghe released a series of video images to the media. The former minister says that the video footage is evidence of the actions of MP Palitha Tevara Peruma in the Agalawatta town yesterday. The former minister also claimed that the MP had made Pradeshya Sabha member Murugan Pushpakumara to kneel.
We had made preparations to open my office in the area. At that time, a group of thugs led by UMP parliamentarian Palitha Tevara Peruma came there and caused a major scene and threw rotten eggs at the office. He made the Pradeshya Sabha members kneel and assaulted them in front of everyone. This is really dangerous. I hope that the leader of the UMP will take disciplinary action against this MP. Good governance can never be established through such a political culture.
මේ වගේ දේශපාලන සංස්කෘතියක් කරහා ස්ථාපිත කරන්න බෑ. සිකුරාදා දහවල් 11ට
They came there at about 11 a.m. on Friday. A court order has been obtained from the police. They tore up the court order. They fired shots in our direction. The shooting took place in front of the police.
පොලිසිය ඉදිරියේ තමයි මේ වෙඩි තිබ්බේ. මහින්ද සමරසිංහ ඊට ප්‍රයමතුමා කිව්වට පස්සේ මම නලින් වික්‍රමසිංහ අගමැතිතුමාටත් මේ ගැන කතා කරා.
After former Minister Mahinda Samarasinghe informed me of this, I telephoned Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe. He told me then and there that he would take the necessary steps. This is not a problem between the leaders. This is the inability to control supporters at the grassroots level. One wrong does not right another. If we were wrong, then the people have expressed their will against us. We bow to the people's will. If we are defeated, then we accept it. But this is not how the victor must behave.
Meanwhile, former Minister Mahinda Samarasinghe lodged a complaint with police headquarters this evening and requested that they carry out an investigation into the incident that occurred in Agalawatta. Samarasinghe said that he had also provided the video footage to the police. News First made inquiries from MP Palitha Tevara Peruma regarding the accusation against him.
The chairman of the Palandinura Pradeshya Sabha had broken into the home of a UMP activist and set fire to it. When we lodged a complaint, they did not record it. We staged a demonstration opposite the Pradeshya Sabha. While the demonstration was underway, the chairman and others came towards us armed with knives, sickles and machetes. I shouted to the police to stop them. They did not stop. I had a pistol in my hand. It is not a fake one. It is my pistol. I fired shots into the air to stop them. The vice chairman, known as Darshana, had come to the Agalawatta town and he removed and destroyed black flags that had been put up around the clock tower while the police looked on. We went there to see what had happened, and it was then that the person known as Pushparaja attacked our people. I did not see any major scene there. There was an argument because they pelted stones at us. Our people pelted eggs at them.
Minister of External Affairs Mangala Samaravira, who is in India on a 3-day official visit, met with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi today. Reuters reported that Samaravira, who is on a 3-day India visit to strengthen bilateral relations, met Modi at his residence in New Delhi. Delegates from both sides were also present during the meeting. Samaravira met his Indian counterpart Sushma Swaraj yesterday, which was the first high-level discussion since the new government was installed in Sri Lanka. They discussed bilateral and regional issues.
Democratic Party leader Sarath Fonseca visited the Army Hospital today.
The leader of the Democratic Party, together with a group of high-ranking officers of the Army, visited the Army Hospital in Narayanpeta and inquired into the well-being of soldiers receiving in-house treatment.
Mayor of Hambantota, Eraj Fernando, pledged his fullest support to the president in order to create good governance. He was seen seated with the ruling party and representatives of the opposition at the municipal council meeting today.
Seating was arranged without taking into consideration the parties, but rather according to the number of votes received by the municipal councillors. Mayor Eraj Fernando noted that all municipal councillors, including himself, have decided to support President Maithripala Sirisena.
The majority of the country voted for Maithripala Sirisena for a change. The Hambantota Municipal Council, together with the people, are prepared to render its fullest support for the implementation of the 100-day program.
A tense situation arose when the opposition leader of the Hambantota Municipal Council, M. Ayub Khan, informed the council that he was being threatened.
There is a conspiracy to murder me. A municipal councillor is also involved in this. There are facts and figures with regard to this. I am not willing to be knelt down like a weakling in the city. They spread thuggery in different areas, so there is no point talking about this. I want to tell those thugs that if they want to make problems, then face me directly. I feel saddened by this. Do not talk about racial issues. Mahinda cannot win only by the votes of the Sinhalese. There are Muslim people too.
Despite this tense situation, everyone pledged their support to President Maithripala Sirisena.
The Executive Committee of Sri Lanka Cricket convened today. Following the committee meeting, the President of Sri Lanka Cricket expressed these views to Sports First.
දැන් ඔබතුමාට දැනුම් දීමක් කළා තිබුණා සුනිල් හඳුන්නෙන්ති මන්ත්‍රීවරයා ලිපිගොනු වගේක් ආරක්ෂා කරන්න ඒවා ශ්‍රී ලංකා ක්‍රිකට් ආයතනයෙන් පිටතට යවන්න එපා කියලා. මේ සම්බන්ධයෙන් මොන වගේ ක්‍රියාමාර්ගයක්ද ගන්නේ? අද ඒ ගැන විධායක කමිටුවේදී සාකච්ඡාවට ලක් වුණාද?
ඔව් ඒක සාකච්ඡාවට ලක් වුණා. ඒක ඒ වෙලාවෙම ඊයේ දැනුම් දුන්න හැටියෙම මට දැනු හැටියෙම මම ඒක විධායක නිලධාරීට දැන්නුවා. දැන්වල අවශ්‍ය පියවරවල් ගත්තා. ඒ විධායක නිලධාරීගේ යටතේ ෆයිල්ස් එක ඔක්කොම තියාගන්න කිව්වා.
ඒ කියන්නේ ලිපිගොනු ශ්‍රී ලංකා ක්‍රිකට් ආයතනයෙන් එළියට යැවීම සඳහා වැඩපිළිවෙලක් ක්‍රියාත්මක වුණාද?
නෑ එහෙම දෙයක් නෙමෙයි. ඊයේ අර එක්ස්කෝ අද එක්ස්කෝ මීටින් එක තියෙන නිසා සමහරු අර එක්ස්කෝ ෆයිල්ස් අරන් ගිහලා තිබුණා. ඒකයි කියලා හිතන්නේ සමහරට ඒකයි කියලා අපි හිතන්නේ. එහෙම නැතුව දැනුවත්ව මොකුත් එහෙම දෙයක් වෙලා තිබුණේ නෑ.
දැන් බොහෝ දෙනෙකුගේ අවධානය යොමුණු තවත් මාතෘකාවක් තමයි ක්‍රිකට් නිලවරණය. කොහොමද මේක කටයුතු සංවිධානය කරලා තියෙන්නේ?
ක්‍රිකට් නිලවරණය අපි අද සාකච්ඡා කරුවා. ඒක මේ දැන් ඇමති තුමෙක් කලපත් කරයිනේ අද හෙට. ඒතකොට ඇමතුමත් එක්ක කතා කරලා දිනයක් දාගන්න. මොකද මේ වර්ල්ඩ් කප් එක තියෙන නිසා.
වර්ල්ඩ් කප් එකෙන් පසුවද මේ නිලවරණය පවත්වන්නේ නැත්නම් පෙරද?
ඒක තමයි. ඒක ඇමතිතුමාගේ අනුජැනුම පිටයි අපි කරන්න හදන්නේ. සමහර විට පසුව වෙන්නත් පුළුවන්.
Well, that's a wrap of Primetime News at 9. It was a pleasure having you with us. I'm Stephanie Lazarus.
And I'm Shane Silva. Take care and good night.